All right, so we want to find the phase shift and vertical shift, and we'll also write the equation of the midline. So the phase shift is the C value divided by B, so this would be pi over 1, and so that's pi, and that's going to shift it to the right, right? So it shifts the graph to the right pi units. Vertical shift, that's the D value, it's going to shift it up 2 units. And then the equation of the midline would be y equals 2. All right, number 2, phase shift. Okay, we're going to do pi over 2, that's our C value. And we're going to divide that by the B value, divide by 2. So that's the same as pi over 2 times the reciprocal of 2 to the half. So that would be pi over 4. And that's going to shift it to the left. So pi over 4 to the left. Vertical shift, there's none because there's no D value. So the equation of this midline would be y equals 0, which is just the x-axis. All right, number 3, the phase shift. We're going to do C divided by B. So that simplifies to 1/4. And do the opposite of what it shows. So we're going to go negative. That means it shifts 1/4 to the left. Vertical shift is going to go down 4. And the equation of the midline would be y equals -4. Number 4, there is no C value, it's 0. So 0 divided by 2 would be 0. So there's no phase shift. Vertical shift is going up 3. The midline would be y equals +3. All right, so now let's go ahead and start graphing. All right, amplitude period is the same as what we did on Friday. All right, so amplitude, absolute value of A, which is going to be 2. Period, we're going to do 2 pi divided by 2, which would be pi. Our midline is going to be y equals 0 because there's no D value in this problem. Our phase shift, we're going to do C over B, so that's pi over 2, and that means it's going to shift to the right. Our domain is always going to be -infinity to +infinity for these graphs. And the range we'll get after we get the graph in there. All right, so we're going to go 4 tick marks to the right. Okay, and we'll put our period, which is pi. We'll cut that in half, so that's pi over 2. We'll cut that in half, so that's pi over 4. We'll multiply that by 3, so that's 3 pi over 4. All right, so our midline is on the x-axis, so it doesn't shift up or down any. So our amplitude is 2, so the highest we're going to go is +2, and the lowest we're going to go is -2. All right, so we want to remember the shapes of our graphs, okay, how it would start. So this is a sine graph, so it starts on the midline or the x-axis at 0, 0, goes up, down, and ends on the x-axis. So that's our shape. All right, so if there was no phase shift, we would start right there. All right, that point right there. But because of the phase shift, we have to start pi over 2 units to the right. That means that we have to extend our graph 2 units, 2 tick mark values. That's what pi over 2 is, as a value of 2 tick marks. So what we have to do is extend this graph to the right 2 more tick marks. All right, so we'll put 2 more, and we'll label those. All right, so now we have to find the value of each of these tick marks because we extended the whole graph to the right. Does anybody know what the value of this one right here would be? Good, right? So it's exactly the same concept of how we got this one right here. All right, how do we get this third one? We took the first one and multiplied it by 3 because it's the third tick mark. All right, so to get the 5th tick mark, which is this one right here, take the first one, multiply it by 5. Okay, and then we can get the 6th one by multiplying the first one by 6. Simplify if you can. All right, so to find the 5th tick mark, just take pi over 4 times 5. That's 5 pi over 4. And then to find the 6th one, multiply pi over 4 times 6. That's 6 pi over 4. That simplifies to 3 pi over 2. All right, so our graph is going to start at pi over 2. This is where it starts. All right, and then our shape, okay, we're going to go up, down, and at the x-axis. So go ahead and put your 5 points in there, and you can connect it. All right, so we're going to start to go up, then come back down, go down to the lowest, end on the midline, or the x-axis. Right, so there's our sine graph shifted to the right, pi over 2 units. All right, our range, we can see the lowest is -2, the highest is +2, so -2 to +2. All right, number 6. Amplitude is 1. Period, 2 pi divided by 1 is 2 pi. Our midline is y equals 2. Phase shift is pi units to the left this time. The domain, -infinity to +infinity. And then we'll get the range in there after we get our graph. All right, so let's go 4 tick marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, our period is 2 pi. We'll cut it in half. That's pi. Cut that in half. Pi over 2. Multiply by 3. 3 pi over 2. All right, now this has a midline at y equals 2. Right? So what we're going to do is put a dotted line at y equals 2. This is our new x-axis. So just think of any points that would be crossing through the x-axis. Now this is where they cross through. All right, our amplitude is 1, so the highest we're going to go is 1 unit above that midline. So we're going to go up to 3. Okay, our midline's at 2. Our amplitude is 1, so we'll go 1 unit above, and then we're going to go 1 unit below that midline. So that would be at 1. So the highest we're going to go is 3. The lowest we're going to go is +1. That gives us an amplitude of 1. All right, now this is being shifted to the left, pi units. All right, so we can see that pi units has a value of 2 tick marks. So we're going to extend it to the left this time, 2 tick marks. And these values just kind of reflect over, they're just negatives. All right, so we have -pi over 2 and -pi. So we're going to be starting our graph at -pi. All right, so our shape of a cosine graph that's been reflected would look something like this. It starts low, goes up, and then down. So it's a reflected parabola, upside down parabola. All right, so we're starting at negative pi at the lowest point, which is at 1. This is our first point right here. It's at negative pi 1. All right, then we're going to go up and then back down. All right, so we start low, we're going to end low. Our last point should be 2 units away from this one right here. Okay, should end right here. All right, so put your 5 points in there. And then just connect them. All right, so that's a reflected cosine graph that's been shifted to the left pi units and up 2 units. Our range is going to be 1 to 3. So number 7. Amplitude is 3. Period 2 pi divided by pi is 2. Midline y equals negative 1. Phase shift is none, because there's no c value in this problem. And the range we'll get after we graph it. All right, so our period, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cut it in half. Cut it in half. And then multiply by 3. Okay, our midline is at y equals negative 1. All right, so we have an amplitude of 3. So we have to go 3 units above the midline and 3 units below. So counting up, 1, 2, 3, that's going to put us right here at 2 units high. Okay, so our maximum is going to be 2. Then we're going to go down 3 units, so we're going to have to extend our graph. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 1, 2, 3. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. All right, so negative 4 is going to be the lowest. Okay, there's negative 1. All right, so this is a sine graph without a reflection, so the shape looks like that. All right, there's no phase shift, so we're going to start where the midline and the y-axis intersect. So this is where we're going to start right there. All right, and then we're going to go up to the highest point. Then come down to the lowest, and then end on the midline. All right, and then our range is negative 4 to positive 2. All right, number 8, amplitude is 1. Period 2 pi divided by 1 is 2 pi. Our midline is y equals 1. Here we have a phase shift pi over 2 to the left. All right, so 4 tick marks, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 2 pi. Cut it in half is pi. Cut it in half, pi over 2. Multiply by 3, 3 pi over 2. All right, we have a midline at y equals positive 1. So from there, our amplitude is 1 unit. So we're going to go up 1 unit, which puts us at positive 2. And down 1 unit, that puts us at 0, right on the x-axis. All right, we're going to go to the left pi over 2 units. All right, and so we can see that pi over 2 has a value of 1 tick mark. Okay, that means we're going to shift it to the left 1 tick mark, which puts us at negative pi over 2 to start. All right, so the shape of this is a reflected sine graph. So remember, start at the origin, go up, and then end on the x-axis or our midline. Right, so again, think of starting on the midline, ending on the midline. So we're going to start at negative pi over 2, but we're going to start right here on our midline. That's negative pi over 2, 1 is where we start. Right? So now we're going to come down to the lowest point, down here on the x-axis. We're going to come up and then end on our midline. Okay, we should end 1 tick mark value to the left of where it would have started, or ended at 2 pi. We should end right here at 3 pi over 2. So go ahead and do the last two, 9 and 10. Should be able to do those now. Question? That is reflected. If it's not reflected, it's a U. This is upside down U.